All right, Legacy Builders, we have an amazing interview for you today.
Yes.
We have none other than the legend, the man, longtime real estate investor, Chad Carson.
Yes. He goes by Coach Carson, by the way.
That's right. Hey, Chad, how are you?
What's up, Coach
Wow,
Carson?
I'm doing great, but you really built me up on that one. I'm gonna have a hard time following up the legend. I think of Will Smith, and I think of some other people in legend, but I haven't thought about myself that way. So thank you.
Hey.
Well, you are definitely a legend in this game.
Yes.
Well, thank
So,
you.
first question, I'm sure people want to know, why do they call you Coach Carson?
I was a football player. That was how I paid for college. So I went to Clemson University, and I always loved sports. I'm just a sports guy. I don't watch it as much these days. I like to play it. I like to play pickup basketball. And so I think just infusing that when I started writing a blog, and I didn't know anybody would read the thing, at the time.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I got to get a name, and I got to have something kind of short. And I like sports, and I like to help people. And I said, I always loved my coaches.
Okay.
Awesome.
Help me out. And so I said, I think that would be kind of I could channel some of my best coaches in sports and try to help people in the online world. That was how it worked.
Oh, we like it. You just dropped a tip on how to pick your blog and YouTuber name.
Yeah. A coach in real estate and personal finance. All right. I dig it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Chad, you've given us a little bit of background on who you are. For the audience who has never watched a Coach Carson YouTube video and they're not familiar with your blog, give us a little more insight into who you are as a person, where you're from, and some thoughts on your money philosophy.
Okay. Yeah. So I live in Clemson, South Carolina, and I'm 40 years old and married, have 2 kids. So a lot of my time spent, my kids are at school right now, but I have a 6 and 8-year-old. She just turned 7, actually. 7 and an 8-year-old.
All right.
And so, family's a big, important part of my life. I like to travel. And a lot of what you guys talk about with entrepreneurship and travel, I really resonate with, because my wife and I have traveled abroad to Ecuador for 17 months and lived there. And so that was just living there, and our kids became fluent in Spanish. My wife teaches Spanish. So we're kind of into nerding out on languages and exploring other cultures. And that's just one of my passions and my wife's passion. And so the real estate and the entrepreneurship I'm passionate about too, but it's they kind of feed one another. That we take some time off and enjoy life, like you guys have done too. And then you go back and hustle and grind and do the entrepreneurship stuff. And so it's kind of my crazy balance is to try to go back and forth between those two. And I was supposed to talk about money philosophy too, so I better hit that one, right?
Yes.
We appreciate it. This channel is all about money and entrepreneurship. So they want to know, what do you think about money and how do you?
Yeah. I love that question. One of the first articles I wrote on my site was something called the Money Life Manifesto. And I just wanted to talk about the fact that money's not everything. It's really important, and we got to focus on it. We got to make money. But at least my opinion is that myself and other people are looking to make money for other reasons. So I started asking everybody, on my blog, I was like, why do you want to make money? What's important to you? And I got all sorts of interesting answers. And some of it was like my family, we want to travel, we want to spend more time together. But also got a lot of answers, just simple stuff. I want to be able to have a more flexible schedule. I want to be able to sleep in the morning. And then, just stuff like that. But then
that was on our list for sure.
Yeah. Wake up to the sunrise.
Yeah.
Don't call me. Don't holler at me. I want the sun to wake up.
Exactly. No alarm clock, and that's kind of changed with school and getting our kids up for school these days. But it's beyond all that. Money is all of those stories and all those things about making an impact on people's lives. And so that was my philosophy on money is trying to figure out what your values are, what's important to you. And everybody's got different things that are important to them. And then, baking that into your finances, to your business, and making sure those kind of what's important to you, what matters, is always at the center of your money decisions. And I think if you do that, it's easy, and I'm pointing myself at me too, it's easy to kind of let the tail wag the dog and always focusing on making more money and building more wealth, and those are great, but focusing on what you're trying to accomplish in the first place always helps me to kind of stay grounded.
Awesome. So Chad, are you naturally, we have one of each here, but are you naturally a saver or a spender?
I'm naturally a saver, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I am not.
Man after my own heart.
I relate to Rashawn a little bit more on that one.
I have fought my instincts to, and I've gotten them under control, It's kind of like the thirst. So
He fought the battle and he's winning.
I'm winning. I'm winning. So
Yeah.
So,
And
Chad, are you and your wife opposites, or are you both the same in that regard?
well, I think my wife is a little more torn. I should let her speak for herself about it. But like my wife and I, we have fun together because when we first met, we would go camping, we go hiking, like a lot of the stuff we did, exercising. It didn't cost any money. So like I think our relationship is built on a lot of those kind of things. But this is probably me too. Like we're both kind of torn because like we love going out to a nice evening meal and getting a good bottle of wine or something, and like that kind of stuff is really nice, and we like to spend up on that. But then there's other things like a car. I drive a Toyota Avalon from 2003 that I bought from my grandparents like a long time ago, and the thing's got, seats are torn and it doesn't. I don't care at all about a nice car. So it's kind of like we want to spend up on some things, and we have that inclination. We're trying to let ourselves loose a little bit, and now that things have a little bit easier financially, so that's the battle we constantly have with ourselves.
Excellent. Okay, Chad. So we know you said you had a blog, but primarily you are a real estate investor for a long time, right?
That's correct.
So tell us about that and how long you've been doing it. What you do and how long you've been doing it.
Well, I sort of started real estate investing by accident. I graduated from college. I was a biology major. I was thinking I was going to apply to medical schools, but I had just got done playing football in college. I was just kind of tired. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take a break and do something that I think will help me long run. And I was fortunate enough that my dad had rental properties. He was a rental property investor. And so he had some books. He had some books on the shelf, and I was just like sitting around there reading them. I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And I thought, all right, what if I could figure out? I didn't have any money at the time. Like I didn't have any college debt. I was lucky that way, but I had about $1,000. Had my car, and I asked him, my dad. I said, is there some way that I could live at home, live cheap, and try to figure out a way to learn the real estate investing business, and maybe I could use that down the road, just learn how to invest. Oh. And so what I started doing was just going out and being like what we call in Georgia a bird dog. So I would go out and like point. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any know-how, but I would just kind of sniff around in town and talk to agents, talk to people who had houses for sale, look for vacant houses. And I would just basically point at it and say, hey, I think this might be a good opportunity. I've talked to this owner. And then I let my dad, for that first year, he had the money and he had a little bit more know-how to buy them. And so I used that model, and I used it with other people too later on to go out and find deals for other people and just make a little small amount of money every time I found a deal. But it was enough for me to learn. I didn't take a lot of risk. And it kind of gave me that first step to get the taste of what this is all about. And I said, you know what? I kind of like this, not having a boss, not having to go to a job. And so I got the entrepreneurial bug in it, by accident. And I said, all right, I'm just going to stick with this. I'm not going to medical school. I'm not going to do any of the other stuff, go in the corporate world. I'm just going to try to figure this thing out, and started kind of growing the real estate business by flipping houses. And I got a business partner. Yeah.
I think we were both thinking the same
your parents
thing.
were okay with that though?
Yeah. I'm like very fortunate in that respect. They weren't like, my mom wanted me to go into medical, like, hey, you can come be a dentist, and you can do this, and here's the business model. I'm like, I don't do that.
Music to her ears, I'm sure.
Yeah. So instead, I went up and moved back up to Clemson, South Carolina, where I went to school. And a business partner and I I lived in his spare bedroom. He had this extra bedroom that had a bunch of boxes in it, and I didn't know there was a bed in there. And there's a bed in the back of the room. Wow. And I said, hey, can I sleep in this extra room here until I can get my feet on the ground? And we found a couple deals. We flipped them, made a little bit of money on them, and that was it. We just kept on scrapping by and going. And over the years, things changed a little bit, but that was how we started.
All right. So Chad, you have, from a real estate perspective, you have invested in a multitude of ways, just based on what I've seen on your channel and on your blog. Tell us how your business has transitioned from flipping to where you are now.
Yeah, so when I first started, and I think this is an important distinction for people who are thinking about real estate. Real estate's a huge umbrella, right? I mean, you can be a real estate agent, you can be a house flipper, somebody. I know one in the room, right? You can be, and then you can be an investor. And I think it's important to distinguish those two, because that's what I had to do. Like, I was a real estate entrepreneur first and foremost. So I was flipping houses. If I had to start over again, I probably would have got my license. I didn't have my license when I first started. I got it later on. But I think basically you got to decide, all right, do I need to make money from real estate, like current income, or do I already have some money and I want to invest it into properties?
Okay.
And we didn't have any money at first, so we were, very much in the entrepreneurship kind of angle of real estate. And we did that for at least a few years before we finally got a little bit of money that we could put as a down payment on a rental property. And then we transitioned into eventually owning some rentals, and that it's kind of flipped now. So 18 years later, we are very much in that investment kind of side of real estate. Every once in a while, I have my license on dormant status. Like I just don't use it that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I always kind of keep that entrepreneurship as like kind of my plan B, plan C, plan D, that, if the investment world doesn't go so well, all right, I'm going to go start flipping houses, or I'm going to be an agent, or I'm going to dig ditches. I don't, whatever I got to do, I'll figure out a way to make some money. And that was an important part of our process, was sort of building off each step until we could have some capital to invest and kind of get more stability.
Okay. So you just did whatever until you can make enough money to invest in one and then flip it, like in the beginning, you were saying? Yeah, we just saved up until we could buy a rental property. We just saved up some money. But here's another thing we did, because we didn't have, I wasn't very bankable. So like if I went, a lot of people might, if you have a job and you have a W-2 income and you got good credit, you were in much better shape than I was when I first started, because I walked into the bank as like a 23-year-old college kid, just recent college grad with $1,000 and no job. And I'm like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. You want to give me a loan? No.
And, they said, no, we don't want to give you a loan. So I had to get kind of creative with the financing, and that's something that a lot of people find they get stuck. Maybe they get 4 or 5 loans, and then they get stuck where the bank won't give them another loan. Well, that's sort of what I had to do in the very beginning, and it was a kind of a negative at first, but it became a strength over time, because I started learning to use techniques. Like I went to a professor that I met at Clemson University. He was already in some rental properties, and we figured out ways that he would loan me money or partner with me or do a lot of creative kind of financing, like lease options and things like that. Right. So I got into that creative side of real estate by necessity, but then over time that was really helpful for me, because we didn't get stuck in like one little rut or one little strategy, because things change every year, every couple of years, and so that gave us a lot of flexibility to survive and kind of keep growing.
Awesome. Yeah, we actually did a video about no money down investing, because we felt like we really needed to clarify for people.
Right.
They hear no money down and they think that they don't need any money. That's not at all what it means. It just means that it's not your money.
Right.
That's right.
You need to have some friends,
somebody,
some family members,
yes,
or even in your case, a professor who was willing to invest with you.
Correct.
In order to help get it going.
That's a really good point. Yeah, there is no money down. I mean, it's just But if you find yourself like I was, where you got no money, like there is a way to do it, but it's not a free lunch. Like you always got to bring value to the table.
Yes.
And the value I brought to the table as a young upstart entrepreneur was I didn't have a ton of knowledge, but I was willing to hustle. I was willing to do stuff that these people with money didn't want to do or weren't willing to do. Like I was hustle, get out there and find deals and be the bird dog and learn really quickly and be trustworthy. And those things kind of sound, fuzzy and wishy-washy, but like that's valuable. Like if you're willing to do that, you just got to go with what you got instead of like lamenting the fact you don't have any money. Like, no, all right, well, you got time, you got hustle. Let's go bring
build
that
some
to the
skill.
table.
Yep. Over time, you'll get it. Yep.
Yep.
So Chad, today where it stands, is it just you, or do you have employees or partners, or what's going on?
So I have one business partner, and he and I are 50-50. We've always done everything together. So it's pretty much just us. Yeah, same guy, 18 years later. Yeah, he's been great. And I don't know that works for everybody, because partnerships are tough at times, but it was really beneficial for me for a lot of reasons. But one, when we first started, we would just split up the business. Like neither one of us, we weren't making that much money at first. And so I would do the finding the deals and like working with people who would loan us the money. He would manage the remodels, and then he would work on selling them. And so like I could just focus on one part of the business, hand it off to him, and then he would run with it from there. And he didn't have to worry about finding the deals and doing all that. And so it worked really well. And over time we've evolved, but we've tried to keep our business really lean. Like you see me in the background here, this is my home office. This is as fancy as we get. We don't have a office. This is where we work, right? So I try to do everything virtually. we do depend on other people. Like we have property managers now, and we have several different property managers who manage our properties. We used to have she's just retired, unfortunately. We had a bookkeeper who did a lot of stuff for us beyond just bookkeeping, administrative stuff, customer service. So over time, we've had to kind of adapt our business model, but we've never had like true employees. It's always been like hiring out vendors and property managers and people like that. And that's one of the good things about real estate. There's a big industry of vendors and subcontractors who you can hire out without having to have a real business where you have employees and overhead and all that. I really like that about real estate.
Yeah, and having all those skills yourself, right?
So. Yeah, you don't have to have all those skills. You hire an attorney to do title work. You hire an agent who will go out and do a market research for you. You hire a contractor to go out and do the remodeling for you.
Yeah, and we say all the time, property managers have been worth their weight in gold.
You got that right.
No doubt about it. I agree.
So Chad, one of the things the legacy builder community is always interested in as they decide whether or not they want to go down this road themselves is what kind of money is there?
Yes.
I mean, from an entrepreneurial perspective, as a real estate investor, how much, can you make annually, or if you're comfortable sharing what you make and how you earned it, then that would probably be helpful.
Yeah, if it's helpful, I'll talk about like what I made early on and then how that's evolved and where it came from, how that's changed, because it's different now than it was even 10 years ago. When I first started, as I said earlier, I was flipping houses, and we would always shoot for like a $20,000 profit on a house we flipped. Okay. And like to put that in perspective though, like different markets have different price ranges. Like we were selling a house for like $120,000 to $170,000. That was a typical house for us. So sometimes when you're flipping houses, you look at like a profit margin. You might say, all right, I want to make a 15% profit on what I'm selling the property for. So like if you're selling property for $100,000, you try to make a $15,000 profit. If that's 15%. Okay. That's sort of what we did. We'd have a minimum goal. We'd make, sometimes you shoot for 20,000 and you would make 10 or 15 if it all went bad. Sometimes you lose money every once in a while, but we would try to like early on, we'd try to flip like 3 or 4 houses a year. And so, if we made 100, 150 grand, kind of, and that's between me and a business partner, and then we had to pay some expenses like operating expenses, marketing, things like that. Early on, I was just shooting for like 20, 30,000 bucks a year and trying to live pretty cheap. Like that was my living goal. Over time, like it's grown, as I have a family, kids, we have a budget that got up to like 3,000 a month, 4,000 a month, 5,000 a month, kept going up. And that kind of number is where, for me, like right now, $5,500 a month was kind of like, all right, we cover 5,000, 6,000 bucks a month, we're good. And so, we used to get that from flipping houses and from eventually start managing our properties. So, we would, instead of just flipping houses, that was always like a new job. Every time we got a new house, we had to flip it. So we started trying to evolve to where we would make money on a monthly basis from our tenants. They would pay us rent, and we might make a smaller amount of money, but if you start stacking up those $200 a month, $400 a month, $600 a month. And so that's more where we are now. And, we have 104 units is kind of our number of rentals. And
wow.
So
that's 104 doors, right? Units and doors.
104 doors, correct, yeah. Okay. So like one building is 12 units, another building is 4 units, and most of them are smaller multifamily kind of properties. And we, in 2016, 17, we'd had a lot of properties before that, but that was kind of the point where we're like, all right, I think we're covering all of our overhead personally, and we're able to cover all our business expenses with this rent. And usually we try to, my business partner and I retain some of those profits to like reinvest it and pay off debt. And so back about 2016, 17, we got to the point where we could cover all our personal expenses, business expenses, and saving up money, every year to pay off debt and do those kind of things. And that's where we're like, all right, I think we can go travel a little bit, go live abroad for a while, and felt like we were financially independent at that point.
That's awesome. Pretty nice.
I have a question. So you guys started flipping and then eventually moved over to rental properties. Do you still do flips, or do you think the market's changed in South Carolina, right?
South Carolina. Yeah,
we always ask me about flip.
Yeah, flips are still there. I mean, you can actually flip in any market, whether it's hot market, down market. You just got to know the values, your prices really well. And that's what, like, to me, a real estate agent, if you're either a real estate agent or you have a really good one on your team, they are really important because they have a pulse. If they're a good one, they have a pulse on what's going on in the market, how many days on the market, what properties are hot, what properties are not hot, what neighborhoods are good. And so you just got to be really active in the market to flip. And if the market starts dropping, you just got to know, all right, I got to drop my prices. I got to make lower offers. And so, yeah, flipping's always there. Renting is always there too, but not in every market. You know, like if you buy in San Francisco on the peninsula, you know, your property costs $1 million and it rents for $2,500 a month or something. You know,
no, thank you.
Numbers just don't work. So you just got to pick your markets, pick your locations. You got to get a little bit better deals. But I think if you have a lot, like rental properties is a long-term game. You know, you're not gonna make it overnight. Flipping, you might make a big $30,000, $40,000 hit, and that'd be awesome. But rental properties, you're probably gonna be investing money into the property for a little while.
Yeah.
But if you get 5-10 years, I don't know what y'all's experience has been. Like after that, then if you bought a good property, things stabilize, rents go up, you start getting things looking better after that.
Yeah, definitely same. For the last 3 years or so, it's been a seller's market.
Yeah,
so considering how much you guys have owned, were you tempted at all to sell any of your properties, or did you sell any and take profits from that?
Great question,
curious.
It's a really good question. Yeah, so we've continued to buy some properties. Like this year in 2019, I'll say, we bought some new units, some new multi-unit buildings. But for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been selling off some too. So it's kind of like we're trading off some of our ones we don't like as much, or some we've already made a profit in, and then we're reinvesting that into properties that are a little bit better, or just better locations. And I sort of look at it, I'm not a farmer, but I used to go down to South Georgia with a friend in the summers, and he had a big cattle herd. And he let us go out there and kind of act like we were, knew what we were doing for a little while. And my impression of like cattle is that you have this herd of like 100 cattle or something, and some of them are always not going to be the healthy ones. They're going to be the sick ones, or the ones that aren't the best producers. And so every once in a while, you gotta. This might be a bad analogy, but you gotta eat one for Christmas. You gotta eat one for Christmas dinner, or something. You gotta cull the herd, I guess, is my point here.
Thin the herd.
We like to thin the herd of our properties sometimes. You gotta, all right, that property's not performing that well.
Right.
It's just outside of our location. Let's sell that one. Let's get that. Let's use up some of that money to do something else, either to pay off another property, to buy another property. And that's been over time, our goal is to keep improving the herd, keep improving our properties, do better and better, and to the point where we have a really stable, nice herd that we're not worried about needing to sell that many properties.
Okay. I saw a post of yours recently. You were saying something about paying something off this year. So you guys moving towards that? Yeah,
that's really more what we're doing now. Like I mentioned earlier, we retain some of our profits. So like we try to save. It depends. I think we're trying to save about 120 grand per year that we then use to pay off a debt. So the video I shared there was actually my original house hack property. It was a fourplex, and the loan had gotten down to like $70,000.
That's right.
But it was like the back end of a 15-year loan, and we had huge payments, and most of it was going towards principal. And so we just looked at it. We could pay this thing off and free up $900 a month in cash flow.
Very nice. Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of other places to put our money that would get that kind of a cash on cash return.
Right.
And that's really where our head is now. Like early on, it was all about growth and let's get as much wealth as we can build. Now we're kind of at a point where it's not that we're done, but it's more about stability, paying off cash flow, getting cash flow, reducing risk, and so just knocking out that debt felt pretty good, and we're trying to do more of that.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. If you got over 100 doors, so hey, why not?
Yeah.
All right, so Coach, you shared early on that you really focused on keeping your expenses low when you guys first started, because you knew that you would be getting these lump sums from flipping, and sometimes you might not make any money.
Yeah.
How long did it take for your business to actually become profitable? And did you guys decide at any point to work other jobs, 9 to 5s, to help keep your living expenses up? What was that like? Or you just, cool sleeping in, a shared apartment with, you're in your 20s, so you're like, hey, who cares how we're living? Just curious as to how that went.
Yeah, well, my backup plan was moving into my Toyota Camry because they had cloth seats in the back seat, and I was like, all right, I could live with that. But we did keep our expenses low, but I'll go back to like that second year I was in business, because the first year I lived at home and I was just finding deals. So I was just fortunate to be able to live in my old bedroom for a year, but I had to get out of my parents' house. That didn't work.
Amen.
And so the second year it took us about 6 months to actually make any money. And so we bought the property like right at the end of the prior year, so like December, and we fixed it up. We made a bunch of mistakes, and we made like a $10,000 or $12,000 profit in June of that year. So
they had to split that.
Oh,
we had to split that.
you probably did most of the work yourself too, right?
We did a lot, unfortunately. We ended up having to. Like I've never been handy. I'll just tell people that up front. Like so people think you got to be able to be handy to fix up properties. And I admire people on like Instagram who showing all this stuff they're doing with their hands. I'm like, that is not me. Like I am.
Right.
I can swing a sledgehammer because I used to play football. That's about all I got, right?
Okay.
But what that first year though, I mean, it just had to like live off savings basically, because that $10,000 we made, we had to pay for like reinvesting some stuff and some marketing, and like that's the thing about entrepreneurship that I know you guys realize is that when you make a $10,000 check, that's not your money. Like that's not all. Number one, you got to pay some taxes if you make enough money. You got to reinvest that in some marketing. If you have people helping you, you got to pay for that, office expenses. So it hit us I realized it pretty quickly that you've got to be like really strict with your own personal budgeting in order to survive the game, the roller coasters of entrepreneurship. And
that's why so many entrepreneurs fail. Honestly, we believe is the inability just to manage their personal finances.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so I was fortunate, and I was in a place where I didn't have a family, didn't have kids to feed. Like, I think that's a reality that people have to look at. Like, am I willing? How much of a runway of cash do I need in order to feel comfortable that I'm not taking too big of a risk with my whole life? And for me, the runway was just having some cash in the bank. Like that first year when I lived at home, I just saved as much money as I can. I think I had like 20 grand in the bank or something, because I made 30 grand that year and I lived at home and, paid some utilities, but nothing much more. So I think anybody's looking to make that leap, you got to be conservative with your cash. Like you really got, because all of us have that kind of animal instinct in us. Like, hey, we gotta survive here, and I don't want to take a chance. And so if you can put some cash in the bank, more than you think you need, that's what gave me the flexibility to survive that first year until we hit a second deal where we made like $20,000. And now we got a little bit of breathing room. Let's see what we can do. But it never ends. Like you just always, all the way up until, that was 2003 when we started, all the way up until 2007, 8, and 9, when the Great Recession happened, we were always setting aside a bunch of cash and not spending much of it, because you just don't know what's going to hit you. You don't know what's right around the corner. And I think that's it's a pretty simple strategy, but setting aside cash and not spending as much is a pretty good indicator of what entrepreneurs I've seen who've succeeded.
Awesome. Hey, speaking of the recession, when that time came, how did your business go? Did you guys buy more? Did you feel like, oh yeah, this is it, pot of gold, or did you kind of stay out of it?
Well, this might make me not sound as smart when I tell you that this part of the story, and that's fine, because this is, we've got to tell all the mistakes too, right?
Oh yeah. 2007
was the busiest year we ever did in terms of buying properties. Okay. We had 33 closings where we bought properties. 33 closings, and some of those were multiple properties. Like one we had that we bought 12 units at one of those, and another one we wholesaled 5 or 6 properties. So it was just like busy. And in some ways that was good, because we had some deals, like we had really done well flipping houses. We flipped and made 60 grand on some deals, 70 grand on a property. But then we also were buying a bunch of rental properties at that point. And the mistake we made was trying to grow too fast and getting too many things going. And also what happened with us, because when you do that, the real practical part of it is you don't pay attention, or we didn't at least, to all the details of every single deal you look at. And so we bought some properties, not all of them, but a handful of properties that were not the best locations, where we underestimated the repairs that we needed to fix the properties up, where we didn't run it happens anyway, right?
Yes.
But if you do that, we did that in 2007, and here's where the timing was bad. 2008 was when things just like fell off a cliff in a lot of parts of the country. And so in a good market, you can get away with those mistakes, and people are getting away with them right now in 2020. But right. if you buy a bad property, it's not in a bad location, you can't get away with it in 2008, 9. And that kind of stuff happens. We always have recessions. And so we were undisciplined, and then we were stuck with those properties. So we we kind of turned from a full-time flip business to 2008 and 9. We've got to really learn property management. We've got to get good at that. We owner finance some properties. This is where I was talking about getting creative. Like we just got to figure out ways to get creative. And so we evolved our business to the point where, all right, now we just got to survive, figure out how to get some cash flow from this monthly income. And we did still flip some properties here and there. And we did, after about a year and a half, we just kind of recovered and made sure we were okay or survived. Because we had a lot of relationships with private money lenders and people who had some cash and they were kind of nervous about the stock market, which had tanked at that point. We were able to go out and pick off a lot of really good deals in 2009, 10, 11, 12, and on from there, because we survived, because we had relationships with people who had money, who we had paid earlier, like my professor, like other people who he had told about it. And so because it was a scary time, but at the same time, the other side of that scary stuff is a really good opportunity when you can go out and buy some good deals.
I'm waiting for that next opportunity, Chad.
You're looking right now, recession time.
Man, I've been talking for 5 days like this.
Yeah, it's there.
But what caused you? So how did you guys decide to stick in there?
Yeah,
because a lot of people who were investing in real estate at that time kind of fell off.
I was thinking that they lost everything. How did you survive that?
Yeah, well, we lost some money. I mean, I talked about how we set a bunch of money aside. We had like $100 grand in the bank, and we used it. we used some of that money. We didn't use all of it, but I think part of what kept me in it was I enjoyed the business. Like I had fun. Like it was interesting to me, and I think that's a good barometer for a lot of your viewers. Like don't get into this because Rob and Rashawn say it's good. Don't get it because Coach Carson says it's good. Like, is this interesting to you? Do you want to stick with it? And somebody asked me one time, they said, whatever you're getting into entrepreneurship wise, if you'd be willing to stick with it for 10 years, 10,000 hours, that 10,000 hour thing, if you're willing to do that just because you're passionate about it, you've got a chance of succeeding.
Yes.
But if you're just doing it because everybody says it's cool and it's the next best thing, it ain't going to stick. And that's sort of what happened with me. Was I was still interested in it. I was passionate about it. And the other thing was I had all these relationships. Like I didn't just borrow money from Bank of America. Like most of our loans were from Louis, the professor. My grandmother made some loans to me. Some seller finance. Like, these are real people whose retirement is depending on me. And so I was like, I will lose all my money. I will work McDonald's at night if I got to. I didn't get to that, but like that's kind of the attitude I took. Is like I am going to fulfill my promises to these people. And that's also on the other side of that. If you do that with people, everybody else there's a lot of investors who are just, I'm out of here. I'm going to leave these people hanging. They got the property, whatever.
Cold, man.
That ain't happening. And I'm not saying like if it got worse, we got, there's some luck involved too. There's all sorts of things going on. So, but because we had saved enough money, because we had some people who were willing to work with us on the lending side, all of our private lenders, they were willing to stick with us. And we had, all right, we're just going to button the hatches. We're going to rent our properties out. And we're just going to make this work. And on the other side of that, they trusted us and they were willing to loan us more money to do more deals.
Awesome.
Now, Coach, I thought you were going to say you borrowed money from Louis the Knuckle Breaker. And you didn't have any choice but to stick in there.
Tony Soprano.
No, well, that would be another reason to stick in the game, I guess, too.
That would be motivation.
Yeah.
Okay, Chad, so you kind of touched on some of the mistakes. Were those your biggest mistakes, and have you had any failures that you would like to go back and change if you could?
Yeah, I think I touched on some of them. I think some of the biggest failures were just deals that I didn't analyze them correctly, where I lost money. I mean, that's one way of talking about it in business. When you lose money, people have pride. You don't want to say that you lost money. You don't want to, and then it hurts. When you got to dig into your bank account. And so I think, those are failures. The good part about them, though, is my business partner, I have to give him credit for this. Like he and I, when we first started investing, we knew we were going to have mistakes. We knew we were going to have failures. We knew we might even have some deals we lose money on. And his comment was, all right, that's not good, but we know it's going to happen. And so the main thing we got to do is every time we lose money or every time we make a mistake, we got to turn it into a seminar.
Right. You got to.
And that was really helpful because we've had a lot of seminars over the years.
Seminar, okay.
I'm still having seminars, and we would kind of judge it by, all right, that was $100 seminar. We overpaid for that. Or one time I had a mistake where I paid a heating and air contractor. I got 2 or 3 estimates, and I went with the one that was the cheapest. And that seminar was, the cheapest bid often is the person who's either going to do a bad job for you or they're going to steal your money. And this guy asked for my deposit up front and disappeared. And I lost a couple grand on that one. That was a $2,000 seminar. And so these properties were seminars. I had one in particular that I can think about, was just in a bad location. It was a really old property, like 1920s property. And so when you buy an old property, there's all sorts of things below the surface that can be wrong, because the wiring was put in 1920, maybe the foundation was built in 1920, and a lot of that's going to need extra work and extra money. So that particular deal, we just kept on feeding it, and kept on feeding it, and kept on feeding it. And finally, we fixed it up to a point where we could sell it like 3 or 4 years ago, and sold it for like less than what we paid for it in the beginning, after putting a bunch of money into it. And so that hurts. But the good thing about doing a blog is that I can actually write an article about my failures and share it with other people, and at least get some value, that like knowing that somebody else is going to learn from something I did that wasn't good. So I did write an article on that one and shared it around on Bigger Pockets.
And we appreciate your sharing it here. I mean, it helps for people to know that it's not all roses and sunshine.
What are you getting into?
Right? Yep. There are definitely going to be some challenges, and I don't know that there's any business that you can start where you're not going to lose some money.
Yeah. You just got to learn and adjust, right?
All right. So, Coach, it sounds like you guys have come a long way as a team. You've worked together for so long that your lives have changed. You're now a family man with children. And just based on what you've shared with us and how you've managed your life, I would assume that you're happy with the choices you've made. But I don't want to make any assumptions on your behalf. So tell our audience, based on where you are today, are you happy with the decision to become an entrepreneur and to pursue real estate? Or do you think maybe your mom was right and you should have been
I love my mom, but she was not right in that case. So I'm really happy I became an entrepreneur. And I mean, this is totally a personal decision. Like, people who want to become a dentist and a doctor, like that's a legitimate way to become financially independent and do well and be happy too. But I personally am happy. I love the idea of just the challenge and the risk and the mistakes you make, and all. It's kind of like a sport to me, going back to my sports analogy. Like, I just enjoy the climb and the grind and the, all right, I've got nothing here and I'm starting from zero, and I want to figure out how to build wealth and buy a property without any money, or it's kind of like climbing a mountain or something. It's just fun and challenging. And so I think that aspect of real estate investing and entrepreneurship always drew me. And but then also the flexibility. I mean, I resonate with your story in this respect too, that you guys had that security of a corporate job, and you took the plunge to entrepreneurship, which is not easy, but it's not always fun. But you do have a lot more control over your life and your time and your flexibility, and that to me is just priceless. Like, I can't replace that for anything. And particularly when you have kids and you have family, you're like, man, just being able to, when the kids get off the bus at 2:45, and yes, I'm busy, I still have activities and projects, but I can, for 30 minutes, put that aside and watch them run off the bus and jump into my arms and hug and let's go read a book or something. Like,
that's that great age where they still want to do that with you. So
I'm taking advantage right now.
Right.
I tell them that too. I say, you're not, 3 or 4 more years, you're not going to want to see me when you're around your friends. You're not going to give me a hug. So I'm getting my hug right now. I'm planting that
seed. Your daughter will.
Yeah.
Your son will be that way with your wife, but your daughter will still give you a hug.
Well, luckily I got 2 girls, so that's.
Okay. There you go. Yeah. Oh, then you got it made.
I got it made. Daddy's got it made.
You got it made. It's really good that you did this at such a young age too. I wish I would have thought of this at a younger age, because look at you, you're 40, you're such a young man now, and you are really established, and some of us kind of started on the back end. I'm not too sad about it, but I'm saying it's good that you went for it early. You know what I'm saying? Because you could have changed your mind. So I'm gonna go to corporate, or go ahead and be that dentist or whatever. But it worked out for you. Here you are, 40 years old, great life, big time, star entrepreneur, real estate mogul.
You're gonna make Coach blush over there.
Yeah, you are for sure. Well, I appreciate that. And the thing I will say, that for people who are watching it, like, whether you're 60 years old or whether you're 20 years old, like, time, you got to think about that time for sure.
Yes.
Though, because you got to start sometime. And I think a lot of the mistakes my friends made, like, I started investing and being an entrepreneur at 23. And I always tell people, like, I had a lot of friends who went into the corporate jobs, and they went into becoming a doctor. And like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with those routes.
Oh, yeah.
But part of the temptation is when you get that stable income, you're working all the time, you kind of say, I'm just going to spend money on myself for the next 5-6 years. I went to college, or I went to high school, and I deserve this. But it's like almost everybody I talk to, even if they love their job, you get to 28, 30, you want to change something about your job, or you like to take a break. And so like one of the platforms I get on is like, man, if you're in your 20s, don't buy that first dream house when you're 25 years old. Like do a house hack.
Yeah.
Do a house hack, save your money. You only have to do it for 5 or 10 years and you'll be set. And so like every time I get a chance, I have a couple professors at Clemson University who ask me to come speak to these 18 to 22-year-olds. I'm like, yes, I'll be there because number one, I can ride my bike over there and get some exercise. But number two is like, I just think that age, high schoolers, college age, we're all saying the same thing, Rob. We're like, man, you got an opportunity right now to make 1 or 2 decisions in your life. And if you make one decision, you're going to go down a route where it's going to be not impossible, but it's going to take you a lot longer to be financially independent.
Status quo, man.
Yeah, if you just take that other route and, listen to the advice that people at Rob and Rashawn are giving you or other people are giving you like that, that's a totally different fork in the road if you listen.
Rob and I were actually talking, I want to say, was it yesterday or this morning, about the characteristics of an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say that in my 20s, I was not ready to be an entrepreneur. Now, that could have had something to do with the fact that I was already a mom. But I was totally happy with my corporate job paying me money so that I could take that money to take care of my son and pay the bill. Sure. I just didn't have the mindset to take those risks. Mm-hmm. So I want to say, just based on what we've learned in our time as investors and entrepreneurs, is that an entrepreneur has to, one, be a risk taker, somebody comfortable with taking those risks. 2, they need to be a person who can go with the flow when things don't go well.
Yeah.
Right. You have to accept the fact that mistakes are going to be made and things aren't always going to go the way you expect them to. And you have to find a way to recover from that.
And money's going to be lost.
Yes, that's certainly part of the mistakes, right? And then from the third perspective, the third thing is you have to be comfortable with change.
Yeah.
Right. There's always something changing when you own your own business, and you have to be willing to change with it in order to stick with it, right? Because if things don't go the way you expect it, then maybe you aren't doing it right and you need to change the way you're doing it. But you can really become deflated and lose confidence in yourself during this process.
Yeah, that's such a good point too for spouses. Like my wife is not an entrepreneur. She admits that. She's like, she's not working her job as a teacher anymore because we've been able to, live off the rental income. But for her, like, she's always like, Chad, I don't know how you do these, like, get up in the morning and set your own schedule and have this chaos and do all the changes you're going through. It's just not her personality, and she's fine with that. And that's what's cool about all that. There's so many different journeys to having a good financial, stability or freedom, is that you don't, some people start as entrepreneurs like I've done. Some people wait like you guys have done and get into it later after you pay your house off. Other people work a corporate job for 15, 20 years, save a bunch of money, and then they just leave straight from there to retirement. Like there's a lot of different ways to, you got like, I love your point. You got to know yourself. Like, what are the characteristics that you have?
Self-awareness is key.
Yeah.
If you're going to go quit and then, start you wake up in the morning and say, let me turn on this Netflix and do nothing all day, man. Probably not your bag.
Not gonna work. Yes.
So Chad, at this point of your life, who are the people that you surround yourself with the most?
Well, I have a couple mastermind groups just professionally, and that's been really important for me. I have a real estate group, just 3 of us, two other people and me, and we've been, I think it's been 8 years or so that we've talked consistently. Sometimes we go 3 or 4 months, but most of the time it's every month or 2. And so that's been really helpful. It's nice to have a group of people who you can talk to without any, like, they're not asking anything of you. They're not trying to sell you anything.
Right.
They're going to be candid with you, and they know you, and you trust them to give you, the hard feedback if you need it, or the good feedback when you need some encouragement. So I think mastermind groups is something I read in Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, when I was 23, 24. It just kind of hit me. Wow, some of the best, Thomas Edison and Benjamin Franklin, and I'm sure other people we don't even know about had these little behind the scenes kind of groups of people that they met with, and it really helped them. So masterminds have been really big. And then I also I call it I learned this in another book, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, called an inner circle. Just who's your inner circle. And so my wife, my business partner. My dad is also a mentor, and I have the professor that I've kept on mentioning earlier. He's been a private lender, but he's also a mentor and a friend. And so there's just those, you accumulate that kind of people over the years who you trust and who know you and who are willing to listen to you. I think those are really important.
Awesome.
Now, how did you connect with your mastermind? Did you find them online? Did you just run into them while you were doing business with them? Are you paying to be part of a mastermind?
So I'm not paying. In both cases, I didn't mention my second one. I have a real estate mastermind and I have an online business mastermind, and both of those came about because of online event or in-person events. So in-person real estate event, and then an in-person FinCon, where I met you guys. So these are all FinCon people, and I just ran into some people there. We've been doing that, and so I love in-person events. I don't do them all the time, but at least once or twice a year. In whatever professional pursuit I'm doing, whether it's real estate investing or online business, I go to in-person events because I learn so much, but just the networking and getting to know the people so much more than you can behind a computer. And I think that this led to relationships like that where it's invaluable. If you can peek behind the scenes of somebody else's business within your mastermind and you get one or two little nuggets and you're not paying a bunch of money to do that, I mean, that's really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. All right, Chad. So we are at the point where we're going to ask bonus questions. You mentioned a couple of books already. I think it was Millionaire Real Estate Investor and something else. But
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
There it is. Thank you.
What are some more of your favorite resources that people should check out?
Well, one of the ones I recommend for real estate investors, if you're just getting started and you just want to understand what some fundamentals of real estate investing, there's a book called Building Wealth One House at a Time by John Schaub.
I have not heard of that one.
It's really good. I mean, he's been investing in Sarasota, Florida for almost 40 years, maybe more than 40 years. And so I just like that he's got a really long-term perspective. And he's also where I picked up this idea in real estate investing. It's kind of been a philosophy for me, is that you don't have to be huge and have an empire of 1,000 units in order to take over the world. Because I know, I love Bigger Pockets and I love a lot of other real estate investing sites, but some of the ones that really rise to the top that you really kind of catch your interest on there are the ones who, hey, this 25-year-old just bought 50 units in 1 year. And sometimes that's great if it inspires you, but there's a lot of people who are like, wow, I bought one property and like, I must be nothing, or I don't have any properties. And so I like these ideas like John Schaub, like, no, you can build wealth with one property per year, one at a time, 5 properties, get them paid off eventually. I mean, you can have this simple little portfolio that can be very flexible, can give you money and time and flexibility to travel. And so I resonate more with that idea and got that primarily from John Schaub, as having like a lifestyle business. Don't just be in business to like get big just to get big. Yeah. That's what you want to do, go for it. But like, if you want to go travel and do time with your family and do other stuff, having a small business is actually better in many cases.
Yes.
Excellent. Great tip. So Coach, we call our followers legacy builders because our goal is to leave a legacy to our family, our kids and their kids. And we believe that the people who follow our channel would like to do the same. What does the term legacy builder mean to you?
I just love that term, by the way. I love that y'all are building a community around leaving a legacy. And I think early on, it used to feel like money and like physical things were more the legacy. It's, as a dad, I've talked about my kids a lot. It definitely has to do with, I feel like them watching me and saying, all right, what kind of person is my dad? Like, what's he? Not only what's he involved in? How does he treat people? How does he treat, how they treat each other, husband and wife? But also, how does he engage with the world? And it kind of challenges me to do more than just make money. Like I feel like I'm a rookie. I'm experienced in real estate investing and making money, but a lot of my inspiration and kind of legacy I like to leave is in terms of knowledge. So can I go share what I've learned? Don't just keep it in my own head. Like, can I share it with a lot of other people so that other people can build money and kind of become independent on their own? And then even at like, okay, we got enough money to pay our bills. I'm not going to stop growing. I want to make more money. Can I give away some of that money? And that's become my wife and I have a goal to my Coach Carson business, which sells education. We have courses that we're going to start giving away half of any profits. We started doing that last year in 2019, so that if that business grows, we're going to give half away and we're starting a foundation where we grow that and give money away to people and types of organizations and things that are important to us. So I don't know, in terms of legacy, that's the kind of thing I think about, both my kids and making an influence on them, and society, and how to spread knowledge and information. But then not everybody has knowledge might not be enough. There's some people who have starting at a different point than where I was, very fortunate, and had parents and family who encouraged me, had a place to fall back to, if things went bad. And so I think we, you have to also reinvest in people and organizations that are helping people kind of on a basic level. And so I want to learn and do more of that too.
So the community as a whole is still learning, hustling, and growing, much like you did. And so one of the things they would love to know is, how can they learn more? You shared some tips here. You shared some great tips on your blog. But I think I heard you mention a course. And if there's an opportunity for people to continue to learn more about real estate investing, can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So I have a couple of years ago, I started doing an online course called Real Estate Start School. And it was really what I wanted to do was people who are just getting into the business, or somebody who's already in the business, so they're kind of stuck. I feel like there's a lot of people who they want some guidance. You can read a book, and books are great. Like, I'm all about free information, books, YouTube. But sometimes you get to a point where having somebody look over your shoulder and help you a little bit more personalized, and a strategy to help you get going is helpful. Yeah. And so I've been there. I know I'll go back to Coach Carson. I've always had coaches and people have helped me out. And so I made a course that I open up twice per year, and we open up in the spring, open up in the fall. And we have a curriculum that people go through. It's kind of a step-by-step process. Like, all right, if you're stuck, do this. Let's look at your target market. Let's understand that better. Step 2, let's start looking at your financing, and how do you analyze a deal, and how does that work? How do we build a team? So we have all these steps that you go through that have worked for me and that have worked for other people. And then you do that, and you go through that kind of training and learning with a group, with a community, with me as a coach. And so I have regular office hours, and we have an online community where people ask questions and ask other people. And so it's been really fun and rewarding to see people just, go from that stuck point to being able to have some aha moments, to have support, have specific support on a deal, emotional support. Hey, I don't know if this is going to work. And so it's been really fun. And if people are interested in that, I know y'all have a link below in the description. And it's something that I would love to work with people and get to know you better and help you with your own business.
So where can people find you, Coach Carson, if they are looking for your online presence?
I hang out most of the social media places. I'm pretty active on Instagram. So if you just search Coach Carson on Instagram, I'm also on YouTube. So if you're here on YouTube, I'm learning alongside and watching Rob and Rashawn, how they're doing YouTube and all the good stuff they're doing. So I publish weekly every Friday on YouTube. So I send people to one of those two places, and I'd love to connect with them there.
All right. So thank you so much, Coach Carson, for giving us this hour of your time.
Thank you.
It is greatly appreciated. We have learned so much, and we believe that our audience has learned from what you've shared as well. We are looking forward to seeing you continue to learn, hustle, and grow.
Yes.
And thank you for sharing your path thus far.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for what you're doing and all the impact you're making on people. I'm inspired and I follow you guys and love what you're doing too. So really appreciate you having me on.
All right.
All right. See you, man.
See you later. Have a good one.
Bye, Coach.
Bye.